All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Books to Change Your Life, and I'm here with my wonderful friend, Fatma Albrecht. We are interviewing Anne Maxwell today, and we are interviewing her on her book that has personally changed my life. So it's very appropriate that this podcast is, this video series is called Books to Change Your Life. Anne is a licensed clinical social worker. She works with kids from all over the world and also is Gary and Dain's oracle with Access Consciousness. So she actually writes most of the Access Consciousness manuals, works on making a whole lot of stuff happen. So without any further ado, welcome, Anne.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Holy mackerel. It's so good to be here. And it's so funny. We've been trying to get this thing together for, I don't know, 6 weeks or a couple months or something.
We've had
laughing. I know. With Novocaine in the mouth, I could do it.
Yeah, last month I had to get an emergency crown put into my mouth, and I was completely frozen up. And I was like, "Okay, Anne, can we just do it in a few hours?" And she's like, "Honey, not today, not today. Go rest."
No, it's like try and drink something out of a cup. Try and drink something out of a cup and not spill half of it down your throat.
Exactly.
It's like not a good look, you know.
It was like not interviewing day. That was really good advice.
That was hilarious.
So I actually just reread your book, Anne, and it's actually something that it's applicable to kids with as it says on the cover, a different take on kids with autism, ADHD, OCD, and autism. And I think it's so beautiful when dealing with kids with those things going on. I noticed that it was something that I needed myself for my own life, and it changed a whole lot for me, especially with this most recent read. I really needed it. And I was just wondering if you could talk about like what this book is designed to do for people who are different.
So that's thank you for that. And one of the things that I've been doing recently is taking, and I've started to dance again. I danced when I was in college, performed and did all that. And I picked it up again. And my dance teacher is a guy named Bill, and his girlfriend, Rachel, had heard about me just because Bill and I really, he's like 20, he could be my grandson. I think he's like 26 years old. We love dancing together. I learned so much from him. And he talks about me apparently. And he said, I don't know. I told him that I'd written a book. He said, "What book is that?" And I told him, and he went, "Oh, because he is so totally this, And I said, "Do you want to, I can bring you a copy." He said, "Well, I'm going to buy a copy." I said, no, I'm just going to give you one. So I brought it in, and 2-3 months later, he came over to me and he said, I was sitting at the kitchen table and I was reading the book and I was highlighting parts of it that applied to me. And my girlfriend came over and said, "Where'd you get that?" And he said, "Anne wrote it." And she said, Anne Maxwell, right? Which is so funny. And I said, and he said, "Yeah, that's the Anne I've been talking about." And she started crying. And then I went to a competition, a dance competition, and Bill was dancing with a bunch of students, not me, because I wasn't dancing in it. And Rachel came up to me and she was bawling and she said, "I just want you to know that this book changed my life. I was on so many meds as a teenager, and my dad brought this book home and we read through it, and with the doctor's assistance, titrated me off meds. And I've been meds free and I use all the tools." And I'm like, this is why I do what I do, right?
Wow, now I want to cry.
I know. It was just amazing, right?
That's just one person that we know about. And we know about others. It's like she never would have met you if you hadn't had been dancing with her boyfriend.
Her fiance.
Her fiance.
And back in the
Right?
days, yeah, back in the days when before you started writing that book, right? Would you teach a fish to climb a tree? I mean, the title is just like phenomenal. So, what inspired you to it?
So a phone call from Gary Douglas who said, "Can you finish this book?" He'd been trying to get this book out for about 5 years. And I was brand new. I just started taking access classes, and I've been a child and family and play therapist for 30 years. And these are some of my favorite kids. That's one of the fun things about dance is that it's right near Lockheed, and they're all a lot of the guys are aerospace engineers, and they're just the grown-up version of these nerky little kids that I work with. Little, they just like march to a different beat, and they see things differently in there, and I just love them. But anyway, so those were some of my favorite kids, and I've been wanting to write a book for a long time, and it was a perfect way for me to do that because the outline was sort of there, but those are my stories. Those were some of my favorite kids from my practice. And at that point, I'd had a practice for almost 20 years, I think. And so I was really lucky, blessed, if you will. There's a woman who edited all of Gary's books back in the day who never took an access class in her life. And the gift of her was that if she didn't get it, then nobody out there would. And so she would read things that I had written and say, let's come up with another way of saying this, like that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I love about the book is that it's written in English, and it doesn't have any of the, a lot of people, when you get together, whether it's teachers or therapists or people in access or attorneys or medical doctors or nurses, there are particular languages that people speak, sort of short speak for each other. And this one, Donna was the name of the editor. She was really clear that this needed to be in English without any slant, either of therapy or of access consciousness or of anything like that. Wow. And then Elena translated it into Spanish, and she and I talked about that, but she was really, really awesome because she translated it into Spanish as opposed to any particular slant. So really cool.
For those of you watching, Elena just came on camera just to say hi. She's actually translating this entire conversation into Spanish. So
and then the other thing that I'm so excited about is that it was just published it's in 6 languages, including English, and the most recent one is Portuguese. It's like, woohoo! It came, I don't know how many months ago, a couple months ago, something like that.
That's so cool. And just, Brazil is going gangbusters with access. So to have this in Portuguese is so exciting. All of the people that we'll never hear about, that it's going to touch their life and change everything. And it's so cool when things get so big that they get beyond where you hear about the results, but it's like,
so that question that Fatma, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that question that Fatma asked about, would you teach a fish to climb a tree? That comes from a quote of Albert Einstein, which is, everybody is a genius.
Yes.
But if you, God, what is it? I need, Julia, open the thing. Everybody is
but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree,
it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Yeah, exactly. So everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And that's who these kids are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They just think they're so dumb because they don't fit in. And those were some of my very favorite kids in my practice, because I was like that. I never fit in, like just from the get-go, and made so wrong, and then made myself so wrong for not fitting in, for not looking the same, for, having a mom who I adored, but she learned 6 languages by the time she was 4, and she was tone deaf. So God knows what accent she spoke English with, but it wasn't anything discernible, like just down to that, like, where's your mom from? Oh, New York. It's like, no, she's not. Well, blah, blah. It's a long story,
That's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So what is one of your favorite tools that is included in this book? Like, I know it's filled. I mean, and the stories are fantastic, and they're real life stories from your practice that apply to each of these things. I mean, do you have? I have.
Yeah, because still, I mean, we're talking about kids, but look at us, adults, and we're still looking to fit in, still, right? And still we're looking at, oh my God, I'm wrong, I'm too much, I'm too these, I cannot talk properly, I don't behave like others. It's an ongoing thing. And I look at my mom, and she's 86, and she's having the same thing too, right?
Yeah, well, my mom and dad were too. I know. Right, exactly. I mean, how do you think my mom felt? Not sounding like she came from anywhere,
Yeah.
No, my favorite of all of them, the one that really changed my life and contributed to the changing of my therapy practice back then, was this idea that it's sort of a double. I'm going to use a couple of them at the same time, that these kids and these grown-ups get the download of everybody. They are super, 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 super sensitive and super aware. And the way I describe that to kids, they know what a radio tower is, at least they used to, and I'd ask them, are you like a radio tower? And they're like, yeah, right. And who does this belong to? Or is this actually yours? Or is it just something that you're picking up? I mean, they're all different ways, without sounding like you're speaking some weird language, that you can describe this. Does it seem like you're picking up stuff that's going on around you, or that other people are either saying or thinking or whatever? And they're like, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And then the piece of that is, what if you can be aware of all that and know that it's not yours? You're just super, super, super aware. You're like a little ninja with that. And they really get that. And the other thing so that's my favorite tool for kids. One of my favorite tools for grownups is, don't ever make these kids look at you in the eye. Mm-hmm. Like, ever, ever, ever. Like, not looking at you in the eye is a soothing technique. It's a coping mechanism. I don't care what you want to call it, but it's a survival requirement for a lot of these kids, because they have what is described in the book as spherical awareness, which means when they make eye contact with somebody, they get the entire download of what's going on, and it's not cognitive, and it's too much. And one of the hardest things for me is to watch the way schools teach parents and everybody else that these kids are disrespectful, and that they're getting into control battles, and it's a sign of disrespect, and they're just trying to control you, and you should make them stop, and they need to learn. It's like, no, no. That's I had never known that spherical awareness, where you just get the download, right? Boom. But doesn't it make sense?
Yeah.
So. Wow. One of the tools that I was reminded of reading the book and have started actually putting into place is I will be laying in bed and I'll think about everything that's going on. I'll be downloaded with every neighbor within 1,000 miles, the town, the city, and then I'll think of everything I have to do that day. And then I'll think about where I'm at financially. And then I'll think about where everybody else is at financially. And then I'll think about all tasks, kids. So it's like I'm laying in bed and it's like thwack.
Right. Right.
And there was this tool in the book about how go through with the kids, go through everything that you're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to get up and I'm going to brush my teeth, and then I'm going to put my clothes on, and then I'm going to wash my face, and then I'm going to, and then I'm going to go do this, and it soothes me, and it allows me to move forward in the day.
You know why? Do you know
Tell
why?
me.
Tell us. Yeah.
It's a way of being present,
Okay.
right? You get totally present. Instead of all this information that you're getting from everywhere, you can say to yourself, I'm brushing my teeth.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the, wow.
Yeah, it's a way of it. I don't want to use the word focus, but it's a way of being present, like totally present. And when you're that present, oh, I'm brushing my teeth. Your finances aren't a thing, right?
Yeah.
The kids coming and going from school aren't a thing. The trip that is either going to happen or isn't going to happen isn't a thing. It's like, I'm just brushing my teeth right now. It's a way of, a lot of times, I don't know that we talked about it that much in the book, but it's almost like it's a way of reconnecting with your body.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Makes my whole body just relax.
Mine too. And I just had recently a situation. I was going shopping and I was about to have a panic attack, right? Because so much information was coming in, and usually I can handle that very good. And I was like, okay, step by step, inhale, exhale. I started with this because I was starting to shake. And I wonder, like, through our being, what we can invite people and these kids to, because we are the ones who are having the tools, who are being the tools, who are playing every day with it. And I mean, I don't have kids, but what can I be as an adult for these kids?
Right. So I was on an airplane. Oh, what a surprise. And there was I was sitting in business on the aisle, and so I was already seated, and sort of the back of the plane was starting to board. And there was a guy who was a tall man. I don't, like 6 feet. I don't know what that translates into in terms of meters, but he was a tall guy, not heavy at all. And he had his arms around a girl who looked like she was probably eight or nine, who was screaming at the top of her lungs, and her eyes were completely spun out. And and you could feel the whole airplane go like that, and she screams all the way down. And the dad was looking like, sorry guys, we got to do this. And then the flight was, so then the flight attendants get on and say, okay, everybody take your seats. And as soon as there's a little less noise, we're going to, like, all this pressure on the dad and the girl to, like, mind their manners and shut up. Right. And the flight attendants were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And finally I grabbed one of them and I said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've had a therapy practice for years. If there's anything I can do to help you guys, let me know. And he crouches down on his knees and said, like, speak. And I said, she has autism and she's freaking out right now. And so you need to not speak to her. If you want to communicate information, give it to her dad. Be really calm. Don't be disapproving. Be kind, like, be a whole lot of space, and reassure the dad that the airplane is just fine. Everybody on the airplane is fine. It's okay right now. And it's going to be, and I just sort of talked him through, and I could feel him go down. And I said, you need to have this conversation with all the flight attendants too, because right now they're like, like you are. And he went, okay. And, 5 minutes later, it was done. Right. Yeah. But that's how you do it. Like, when you're out there in the world. And I threw my title around just so they would listen, my credentials around just so they would listen to me.
Use what you have to your advantage.
I know, but if you don't have credentials, you can still do the same thing. And you can also be that space. And the guy, I was in the, I don't know, third row back, second or third row back in business. And, you know, people round the corner and they come down, and I caught his eye. I could see that I got the download. I knew exactly what the drill was. And I smiled at him, and, you know, that, I don't know. I think they'd meted her up, but the meds didn't hit until after she was able to come. And then, so,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Right. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah. That's how you do it. There's another thing about, you know, how to get this out there, how to contribute. It's like, be who you are.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're all kind people. We're super aware. And there's not a script that you read from. You know, the universe has got the script out there, God, or however you want to talk about it. And you get to choose. I could as easily not said anything. And I didn't offer to stand up and go down and talk to her. And it was like, no, that's not my thing. I mean, if the dad had asked me to come back, I would have gone back. But, right, he was in charge.
This is the
And
kindness.
he just needed some help.
Yeah, but this is the kindness that you be, and the awareness that you have. Like, you get the ping when you can say something and can go, and what you can contribute. I mean, this is truly a gift, knowing you. Yeah.
Right. Well, and the other thing is to trust what you know, to trust the pings that you get, and to
Oh, thank you.
to be curious, to wonder, wow, is there anything I can do here? Like that, you could hear the screams down the jetway, and I'm like, whoa, I wonder what this is. I sort of got the energy of it ahead of time. But there's that volume that autistic kids, or that kids, that it's typical autism.
Yeah, we're talking about autism, ADHD, and all the labels that are put on
Right.
us, on these kids, and immediately you get all the download about it. So you go into conclusions and judgments. How to deal with that, Anne?
So, I am always curious about what's going to help the most. And so for kids like her, she needs a diagnosis so that she gets the services that she needs in school. She needed the diagnosis for me to be able to communicate with the flight attendants in a way that they would understand that this was the thing. She wasn't just being a brat, and that she just needed, like that kind of stuff. So on the one hand, the labels can be really disempowering, but as a therapist for 30 years at this point, on a really practical level, a lot of times they're required in order for kids to get the kind of treatment and I don't mean like clinical treatment, but just to be treated by the outside world in a way that's going to be helpful to them.
Wow. And over the 30 years of your playing you're being what you be, and working with these people, do you see that people are more open now for that they look at different things, like the access consciousness, to ask a question? Or has that changed in any way in the 30 years?
It's changed so much. And one of the things that I would say, first of all, that's changed is that there's so more of these kids getting born, right? Like from the early 90s. And I don't know whether, I graduated from grad school in 1991. And it may be that they were always around and they had different labels, but they were put into residential treatment centers, the really severe ones. And I can get really clinical on you guys and throw out a bunch of other diagnoses that these kids were given at the residential treatment center where I worked. But I also think that there are just a whole lot more, and there's a sense from many of them that they're not wrong, and they're gonna like do what they do. And there's this, I don't know. I just, they're the ones like somebody says, don't do that. Watch me, right? It's like, you are not going to stop me. And back in the old days that people would, and maybe even today too, people label that as oppositional defiant. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like you know what I mean? Is like, they have a louder voice, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know. The mental health field has really changed in 30 years, and the lockups and the residential treatments are much more rare. Inclusion is a much bigger thing. It all has to do with money, that insurance companies don't want to pay for this kind of stuff. And so I think that kids with these capacities are much more likely to be in mainstream classrooms and out in the world, right?
I love that you said capacities.
Yeah, I know. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so many different levels of functioning, right? You from relatively mild to really severe, like really, really severe, and everything in between.
Wow.
So I'm opening up my clinical practice again. I'm so excited. I
That's
found
so cool.
I found office space, and I get it. And I'm like in the process of buying furniture and
That's wonderful. I'm just wondering right now, when whoever is listening right now, and thank you all for listening and watching this interview here with Anne. I mean, there is this book. Yes, Anne is opening a praxis again, which is awesome. Also, people from all around the world who cannot come to your praxis, is it possible to book sessions?
Yes.
With online and with kids? And
Yeah. And I can, Chelsea, I can get you the link to my website. It's actually my name with the initials after it.com. So Anne Maxwell, LCSW.com, but I'll send the link. So yeah. And that's what, when after COVID hit, that's what I've been doing is online. There's something, online is great. I get to, look good, waist up, and have my jammies on if I have my jammies on, which I don't right now, but I get to function like that. But I really miss the live contact and the kid monkey hugs at the end of a session, and
Yeah. I missed a lot of just being with people. It's so powerful.
Yeah. No, it really is. So I'll do both.
Wow.
So
inspiring. This book is it just can't be articulated enough what a game changer this book is.
You're sweetie. I'm going to tell you okay. So just to close, when I was writing, I said to Gary, who's the audience? And he said, everybody who either has or works with these kids. I said, boom. Right. So I'm thinking those grown-ups who work with these kids. The very first email that I got after the book was published was from a woman who said, "Dear Anne, I'm a 77-year-old fish. And when I found the book, I read it from start to finish without stopping, and I cried all the way through. I wish that this had been around when I was growing up." And I just bawled. I'm like, oh my God, you just never know,
Wow.
And I have no idea who she is, but it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Anne, for gifting us and the world this book.
Thank you.
And for everyone who's like, oh my God, I don't want to read. Reading is not so much my thing. There is an Audible version of it. So I have it as Audible because I read and I listen. I like both.
In English.
Always go for that and just listen. And it's really so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so funny when I was recording it, I would have to call Gary because I was just bawling over some of this stuff, you know.
Yeah, I can see why.
I know. Oh,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And thank you everybody out there listening. And I hope this was helpful to you. And if you're out there and this is something that you are, you have these kids in your life, or you are one of these kids in your life, or you have another adult in your life. I mean, this has helped me deal with my husband, Anthony. He's one of these kids, it's like, I know how to work with everybody because we're all like this,
Yeah.
it's like, it's so needed. So it's like, it's just, I can't recommend it enough. It's such a gift. So,
and thank you to the translators, Elena and Vivi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, lady. Mwah!
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.